John gave body bags to you, gave body bags to you, gave body bags to everyone. You got Bob Carradine in a gas station scene. Sam Raimi as a corpse was craving his mean. Stacy Keach is balding, David Warner is king. Mark Hamill gets a freaky eye in a gross scene. John gave body bags to you, gave body bags to you, gave body bags to everyone. Released in 1993, Body Bags was originally a pilot episode for a series on Showtime that never came to be. Even though the master of horror himself, John Carpenter, despises anthology films apparently, surprises me honestly, he and his partner Sandy King thought if they could have fun with it, they could do something worthwhile. And that's exactly what they did. By casting many people they've worked with in the past, and including a whopping horror fans' wet dream worth of cameos throughout the film in all the various segments, and even getting horror legend himself, Tobe Hooper, to direct the third sequence of the film, John and Sandy wound up with a very well-paced and highly entertaining horror anthology film. Thanks to the 7-time Oscar-winning makeup genius Rick Baker, John Carpenter's coroner character came to life. The coroner character was essentially the crypt keeper of Body Bags, where he would do the wraparounds of the segments and the intro and outro of the film. And he would have done the same role in the show had it actually happened. The film is made of 3 segments, which is fairly normal for an anthology film, it seems like. The first segment was entitled The Gas Station. John Carpenter directed this sequence, and it is a classic girl stranded in the middle of nowhere style slasher film starring Alex Statcher and Robert Carradine. The segment itself was completely shot at night on location at a gas station that was on the outskirts of an Air Force base in LA, I believe. So it is literally in the middle of nowhere. This sequence has small roles for the John Carpenter mainstays Buck Flower and Peter Jason, who are always fun to see pop up in John Carpenter's films, among many other horror films for that matter. But the most fun thing about this sequence is how many cameos it has of other horror legends, including David Naughton in a small role, and horror directors Wes Craven and Sam Raimi in what is, in my opinion, his finest role to date. This is probably my favorite segment of the film just because of the plethora of familiar faces you get to see, whether it be my favorite filmmakers being in the film or the actors from other horror films I loved over the past 37 years now. It's just a good time. The second segment of the film is entitled Hair and was also directed by John Carpenter again. This segment is more of a black comedy that stars the great Stacy Keach as a balding man who is getting more and more obsessed with wanting to grow his hair back and will do anything to do it. He becomes so desperate that he goes to a new doctor named Dr. Locke, played by the late, great David Warner, who was hilarious in this segment, I might add. Stacy Keach is really funny, too. Like, he's way funnier than people would give him credit for in this movie. And like most great anthology horror segments, whether they be in a film or like a Twilight Zone episode, it starts out being way too good to be true and slowly becomes a nightmare for the lead character. Stacy Keach likes to poke fun at himself for his balding. He's been balding ever since he was a young man, and he used to wear hair pieces until he accidentally had it fly off of him doing a Hamlet production in Central Park, I want to say. So live in front of, how many people. And after that point, he was like, no more. I'm just going to go with it. And even in Road Games, which I finally watched recently, there's jokes in that about him making fun of his own hairline. So it's nice to see that he has a sense of humor about it, and it plays very well into this segment. It's that kind of cheeky humor that makes this segment much more funny than it is scary, but it's very highly entertaining, given the performances from Stacy Keach and David Warner. The third and final segment, and most disturbing segment, I might add, of this horror anthology. Carpenter recruited his friend, who I mentioned earlier, Toby Hooper, to direct this segment because it is a psychological horror style segment, and he thought he would be more willing to do the most gruesome of the three segments of the film. The story is about a man named Brent, played by Mark Hamill, who it's always nice to see Mark Hamill in something that isn't Star Wars, because I could count on one hand probably how many movies I've seen him in that aren't Star Wars related content. And it's just nice to see, especially in a horror film. That's even cooler. But Mark Hamill plays a minor league baseball player who, because of his keen eye for the game, I might add, dad joke of the day, flashing letters. I'm an idiot. He's about to be recruited to the majors because he's on a hot streak. But on his way home to his pregnant wife, played by Twiggy, that's her name on IMDb, beats me, I don't know. He gets into a car accident and gets his eye impaled by a shard of glass, therefore destroying his baseball career. Or so he thinks. Luckily, there is a pair of doctors played by B-movie screen legends John Agar and Roger Corman, the god of B-movies himself, who's a surprisingly good actor when he shows up in things, even like Silence of the Lambs and stuff. He's in every movie. He's a god. He's a god of film. I'm just gonna say it. Anyways, he has a first time ever whole eye transplant surgery that seems to go very, very smoothly until it doesn't, of course, because it's an anthology horror film and there's got to be a twist of some sort. He starts having creepy visions of a sick, not sick like ill, but sick as in like evil mother character trying to hurt him, and seeing dead bodies in his backyard or body parts coming out of the garbage disposal in his sink. It so happens that the eye he got implanted was that of a recently deceased serial killer. So you can kind of see where it's going to go from there. But it's a very creepy at times, but also just funny enough to take the edge off segment of this film that I highly enjoy. Even though Carpenter said he loathed, I believe that's his word, in the behind the scenes, loathed anthology films, he and his producing partner, Sandy King, ended up making a pretty damn good one, especially at a time where they were kind of like in a resurgence in the early 90s, thanks to Tales from the Crypt and things of that nature. Sadly, unlike Tales from the Crypt, Body Bags never became the Showtime series that it was meant to be, mostly because Showtime wanted to not only slash the budget considerably, but move the production to Canada for money reasons, which made John and Sandy completely not interested, because in LA they were able to just like call their friends who lived around that they worked with all the time and just have them come over and do this thing. But in Canada, it took away the convenience factor, and since John was never interested in doing an anthology that much in the first place, they opted out and the show was not meant to be. Luckily, the film has finally been given the love it deserves thanks to the fine folks at Scream Factory. It was released on Blu-ray in a collector's edition back in 2013, so it's going to be celebrating its 30th anniversary next year. So here comes that 4K. They've been doing every other John Carpenter movie, so why not Body Bags, right? It's a very good Blu-ray. I would highly recommend it. It's fairly cheap. I want to say it's $20 on Amazon, and it might even be cheaper on Shout Factory's website, which is a very rare occurrence, so don't quote me on that. It doesn't have a ton of special features, but the ones it has are good. It has a good behind the scenes, which I watched again last night, and it has segment specific commentaries, which I haven't watched, but I really want to after watching it again, where John Carpenter comments on the segments he directed with Robert Carradine and other fellow actors from those segments, Stacy Keach too, I believe. And then the third segment has Sandy King's commentary with an actor from that segment as well. That's all I have to say about Body Bags, the first official video of #AnthologyHorrorAugust. Please like, share, comment. Do you like Body Bags? Have you seen it? Did you never hear of it until I just mentioned it? Because that'd be neat, but I highly doubt that's the case. Are you a John Carpenter person? Where does this rank in your John Carpenter rankings? I happen to like this movie quite a bit. As far as entertainment value and pacing, Body Bags is pretty damn good for a first crack at an anthology horror film from the master of horror himself, John Carpenter. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Talk, shop, pop, movies.